People are getting settled. Happy Friday, everybody. Good morning and welcome to our webinar, HR Takeaways Amidst COVID-19. The Quad Cities Chamber strives to be your one-stop business resource to assist during the coronavirus pandemic, connecting you to reliable and accurate information. There's a lot of new information to process and respond to during these rapidly evolving and uncertain times. And the Quad Cities Chamber is here for you, advocating for your business at the state, federal, and local levels, providing resources to help you protect the health of your workforce and operations. We are committed to bringing you the latest information as quickly as possible. Our COVID-19 resource page on our website, quadcitieschamber.com, is updated several times a day, so check that out if you have not. If you haven't signed up for our e-news, you can do that on our website as well. Just scroll all the way to the bottom and there will be a place where you can do that. And we will get through this together. Joining us today are Melissa Pepper and Sarah Kramer of Total Solutions. Melissa serves as president of Total Solutions. She's a high energy leader with experience in marketing, public speaking, leadership development, and business development. And I'm sure you've all seen her around at our various events from the past and currently as well. Melissa oversees all areas of the business with a special focus on integrating services to meet client needs. In her tenure at Total Solutions, she has led the company's new brand awareness campaign and added services to their suite of offerings, including an online training platform and marketing services. Also joining us is Sarah Kramer, HR Director for Total Solutions. Sarah has been with Total Solutions since 2015 and has over 10 years of human resources experience. She has extensive HR generalist experience working at both large and small employers in industries that include manufacturing, transportation, consulting, medical, and retail. Sarah has extensive hands-on experience in leading HR initiatives, including policy design, employee handbook creation, performance management, recruitment and selection, training and development, benefits administration, and employee relations. I don't think there's anything she hasn't done yet. We'd like to thank Melissa and Sarah for presenting today, and we will take questions for participants if time allows. So as you're thinking about those, you can go ahead and put those in the question box. And we will be recording this webinar, and it will be posted on the Quad Cities Chamber website if you'd like to share it with any of your colleagues or watch it again. And at this point, I would like to turn it over to Melissa and Sarah. Good morning and happy Friday.
Happy Friday, everyone. We're excited to be here and present to you all. This is not my preferred mode of presenting for the Chamber. I love to be in front of you and see your faces. I love the Know Your Chamber event and the Business Edge series and those opportunities to connect with one another. But you know, we're going to make the best of it and find an opportunity to connect with you and hopefully give you some resources you can use. We're grateful that the Chamber has been putting out so much information and that we get to be a part of that to help everybody move through these really uncertain times, because the HR piece is certainly uncertain as far as how can we take care of our people and keep our business operating all at once. So Sarah and I are going to go through kind of what's been, some of it is review, some of it you probably already know, but we're certainly not lawyers, although I did used to work with some, so we can give you some recommendations if you need some legal counsel, but we're not those. And we're just here to give you some best practices and advice. So we did want to do a disclaimer that we're not going to interpret the law and that the scenarios that we're bringing to you are not legal advice for your business. So with that, let's jump into it. Sarah has really had an opportunity to work with clients hands-on, but before we get into that, we just thought we'd do a lay of the land so that we can all be on the same page as far as the landscape with the new legislation and guidance that's come out. So I'll turn it over to Sarah to walk you through those.
Thank you, Melissa. Yeah, exactly. We just wanted to kind of give a high-level overview of some of these new pieces of legislation that have recently passed in regard to COVID-19. We're going to be doing some questions, scenarios, and answers to those. So we thought we would just kind of start with, again, just kind of a summary of the new pieces of legislation, one being the Families First Coronavirus Response Act, or the FFCRA. And this particular act is where they implemented the EFML, or the Emergency Family Medical Leave, so the provision to FMLA, and then the Emergency Paid Sick Leave, or EPSL. So that's going to be for the employers under 500. I'm sure many of you as small business owners are familiar with these emergency sick leave pay pieces. And then the second is the Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Securities Act, or the CARES Act. Again, this is going to be, all things PPP, and then the extensions of the unemployment insurance, which we're becoming more and more familiar with. And again, just to kind of dig in a little bit more with the FFCRA leaves, the provision of family medical leave is going to be for, again, employers under 500 and any of your employees who have been with the organization for 30 or more calendar days. And this is going to be just for those individuals who are taking care of a son or daughter because their school or their child care provider has needed to shut down due to the public health emergency. So this, as far as the pay goes for this provision, it's a 10-day unpaid leave waiting period, and then it's 10 weeks of paid leave at 2/3 pay. Then the other piece, the emergency paid sick leave for COVID, that's going to be our 80 hours of paid leave. The individual does need to qualify under either being quarantined or isolated under a government order. The employee needs to be at home or self-quarantined because they've been ordered by their healthcare provider. It also would be for employees who are experiencing symptoms and still seeking medical diagnosis and are needing to be home. Employees caring for someone under the quarantine isolation, and then employees caring for a son or daughter if their school or place of care has been closed. So again, it's going to be that 80 hours for full-time employees. If you do have part-time employees, it's a 6-month look back to average out what those hours would be. So that's kind of, again, a brief overview of some of the new laws.
So we didn't want to use any real client names or call anybody out. So we had a little bit of fun and chose some anonymous names. So the first question I have for you, Sarah, I run a business and I am curious. Stark Industries has an employee who is showing symptoms of COVID-19, but is not being tested as they do not have a fever. As the business owner, I would prefer this person stay home for 2 weeks regardless. What are my options?
Right. So this one, we certainly first want to look at if they've exhausted or used their 80 hours of emergency sick leave, because this individual would qualify as someone who is, seeking a medical diagnosis. They've gone to their physician, maybe they haven't been tested yet, but they certainly want to be home in the meantime. So if this person has not used their 80 hours of sick leave, they certainly would qualify to use that. If they have used their sick leave, we're definitely advising our clients to be flexible with their attendance policies. This certainly isn't a time to force people into the workplace or to be, writing people up, disciplinary actions, requiring doctor's notes. We certainly know from the news we shouldn't be doing that or putting any more pressure on our doctors and physicians right now. But yeah, being flexible with your attendance policy, looking to see if they have vacation time, do they have PTO time, is there something we can do in the meantime to pay them? If not, certainly providing the unpaid time off while they're at home recouping.
Thanks. Do I need to have some kind of documentation regarding along these lines? So I tell this person, you are going to start using these 80 hours. How do I document that so that I can track it for, purposes later down the road?
Yeah, certainly. So the IRS has put out some guidance, and we do have that link in a follow-up document we're sending out, but certainly some guidance on what information we should be collecting from employees. Total Solutions has created templates for clients to use so that they're, making a statement and signing off on that, and that's something we can keep in their file, something the employer will want to keep, definitely to track and kind of go above just that verbal, hey, I need this time off. So, and then certainly we've worked with clients whose payroll processing systems have rolled out new pay codes for COVID-19. So using those pay codes as well to properly track that paid time off.
Thank you. All right, let's move on to question number 2.
That's me, huh?
All right. Should my organization have a policy or protocol to follow in case one of my employees is diagnosed with? And along those lines, should our organization be concerned with enforcing a mask policy?
Yeah, so obviously from an HR perspective, the more documentation, the better, the clear lines of communication with your staff, the better. So, not necessarily writing a policy for your handbook, but making sure things are in writing, things are distributed to employees so they know, there's clear communication so they feel safe. They know there's a protocol. We have had clients ask us to do protocols for them because they actually have customers who are requesting that they provide them with a COVID-19 plan. If one of their employees is diagnosed, they want to know how they're being notified and what steps we're taking to ensure safety and ensure that everything's being cleaned properly and so on. So yes, definitely policies, protocols, communication, making your employees feel safe. As far as the mask policy goes, as we know, the CDC has recommended individuals to wear masks. So we're certainly, telling employers to be flexible in allowing their people to wear masks to work. Obviously not telling them that they cannot wear them. And we're kind of more so talking about maybe an administrative office. I know that there's certainly OSHA regulations and things that they're doing in manufacturing plants as well that might differ, but allowing your employees to wear masks, having voluntary policy for masks. Again, it's to ensure their safety and to make them feel safe. That you want them to come into the workplace and feel safe. So allowing them to wear that mask is usually a good idea.
Thanks. And one thing I will say on the protocol with someone diagnosed with COVID-19 is that obviously you probably assumed this, but it's not an all company email. Hey, Melissa has COVID-19, everyone. So just wanted you to know it would not be that. Instead, it would be there has been a case of COVID-19 in our facility. That person is in quarantine, and then you're that for 4 days. What that is to it obviously depends on the type of business that you run. But the main point here that I want you to take away is you can communicate that a case has occurred, but you cannot communicate who it was.
Yes, good
All
point.
right, next question. Any questions before we move on? These two we're kind of building up to some of the meatier questions, but does anybody have any questions before we move on?
Melissa, there are no questions currently.
Thank you. All right, scenario number 3. Prestige Worldwide Entertainment LLC has an employee who is a low performer before this employee was placed on layoff due to COVID-19. How should we handle this?
Yeah, so we've certainly had some questions about, individuals being placed on layoff, and it doesn't necessarily have to be, someone who's a low performer, but, someone with an attendance issue in the past or some sort of employee-related issue. How can we handle these employees? What are our options? And we're definitely recommending that, if these employees, others in their job classification are being returned to work, that you also return these employees and certainly, address any issues as far as performance, throughout those PIPs, do those things to start documenting those issues, disciplinaries, so that you have the proper documentation to avoid any discrimination. So we're certainly recommending, documentation, going through the right processes, bringing these people back, protecting the company that way.
Yeah, so showing a little bit of empathy. This is not the time to say, oh, thank goodness I can get rid of Jerry now. This is not the time. But having proper documentation. If you don't have a performance management, if you've been a little lax on, this is the time to if you have that opportunity to say, okay, let's really look at our HR processes and how we're managing employee performance, so that we can make sure that everybody has their best foot forward as they do return to work. All right, let's move on to the next one. Scenario number 4, how should my company track the emergency sick leave and the emergency FMLA leave so that we will receive the proper tax credits? Good question for myself.
Yeah, and we hit on this a little bit earlier regarding some of the IRS guidance in tracking these individuals who are using their 80 hours of sick leave or who are needing to use the FMLA provision, the FMLA leave. So certainly, there's some pretty detailed information on that IRS link as to what we're looking for. They're saying we definitely want the employee's name on this document, dates for which this leave is required, a statement of the COVID-19 related reason the employee is requesting leave and the written support for such reason. And then a statement that the employee is unable to work, including, by means of telework for such reason. So a little piece that the employer needs to add in there as well. So definitely some great guidance. Again, we'll have that link. Can never have too much documentation. So something for their file, something for your accountants to have, something to note in your payroll processing system under the COVID-19 pay codes. All very important things.
And one thing that you'll also want to be careful of is that you don't administer the leave when it's not necessary. So there are the scenarios that Sarah went over on the second slide. There's like those 5 bullet points, and you'll get these slides afterwards. But those are the times when that emergency leave comes into place. And there are, if they just don't want to come to work, that is not one of the reasons that you would pay the leave. So you don't want to enter into paying them for that. That's a different scenario. Sarah, how would I handle that situation?
Yeah, so I mean, definitely, again, a reason that this IRS guidance and statement comes into play is to, really dig into why they're leaving, ask them some questions, make sure you bring up the statement. We're going to need your signature on this statement. And if people are openly, needing time off for something else, they're just nervous to be in the workplace. I think each employer is going to have to make some tough decisions. Are we letting these some individuals off with some unpaid time off? Are we letting them use vacation time, even though they haven't given us, 2 weeks notice? We might, again, be flexible with our policies, but yes, again, it would only probably hurt the organization to be paying people under emergency paid sick leave if they truly don't qualify for that. But being creative in making sure your people feel safe and giving them the time off they need. Everyone's under a lot of stress. Everyone's very nervous. Some people feel more comfortable at home, and if you can accommodate some people, you may want to do that.
We have a question. Can you ask if they intend to return to work?
Yeah, I think if someone, if they were leaving, if they were taking the 80 hours of emergency paid sick leave, with the understanding that we're certainly going to communicate with each other throughout that process. It probably depends. I would maybe answer that on a case-by-case basis, why you would ask that, or if you have some concerns. It may depend.
COVID, but I know in a normal, I use a FMLA environment with the employee about work. Isn't that right?
Sorry, you cut off there, Melissa.
Sorry, but saying my internet connection is unstable. Love this technology. In a normal FMLA environment, the employer does communicate with the employee about plan for return to work. So I would keep that in this scenario as well.
Yes. Yep. Correct.
Let's move to our next question. Scenario number 5. What if I call an employee back to work from layoff or furlough and they refuse to return as they are making more money on unemployment insurance? Or kind of the reverse of that question said another way, what if an employee asks to go and work? This is a tricky one, but it's a good answer, Sarah.
Yeah. So we've seen this come up more and more now that we're hopefully coming kind of to the end, and people are discussing the return to work and what that looks like, and calling their people back and saying, we've got the PPP money, we're ready to bring people back, and people going, well, I'm making a little bit more money on unemployment, so can we hold off? Or even being a little disgruntled with their employer, that they're kind of angry. We don't want to come back yet. We're going to be making more money on unemployment. But really the deal is, if they're being offered work, they need to return, or it's really considered unemployment fraud. For someone to not return to work, each week they're going in and claiming their weekly earnings, or claiming, yes or no, I've been offered work, or yes or no, I've declined work. Certainly if they've been offered it, they need to come back. But I do think, it's going to be an interesting battle for business owners. I read an article this morning, a small business owner, not local here, but, she was pretty upset, and that her folks were so upset with her that she's asked them to come back. And, as we all know, that additional $600 per week that started on March 29th and runs through July 25th, was a nice chunk of change that those on unemployment were receiving. So, so definitely something I think employers will be battling, but again, it is really at the end of the day considered unemployment fraud if someone's offered work and refused some guidance, that those individuals could be reported. I don't know if you use the word reported, but reach out to the Iowa Workforce Development to let them know the names of those individuals that maybe have been offered work and refused to return.
Thank you. So let's go to the last slide and we'll just kind of wrap up. We wrapped up with 8 minutes for your burning questions, but certainly the Department of Labor website's Q&A is very helpful. I've referred to it myself a couple of times. Dozens and dozens and dozens of scenarios and questions similar to the 5 that we brought to you this morning. So we're obviously available and are happy to help answer questions because it's nice to talk to a human, but if these kind of things are keeping you up at night, this website is a wealth of information. And of course, the state unemployment sites are very useful. They do talk about things sometimes in plain language, sometimes not. But you can usually find what you're looking for. And then on the IRS, because the tax credits are its own piece, and we're not tax experts, and so we would encourage you to talk with your tax accountant and your legal team or whoever you use, kind of that guidance regarding the tax credit piece of that. So I don't want to give any specifics on that this morning. And then certainly our website and the chambers have a lot of really good information about this stuff. But we're really open to talking with you and just kind of working through the things that you have on your mind. Sarah gets calls and emails and text messages all day long. This has kind of been a really, HR really gets to shine. It might have been a profession that didn't get enough love, and now they really get a chance to shine. It's too bad it's under these circumstances, but they're really being a true resource, and that's exciting for the profession to be helping people in this way. So if no other questions, we're just really appreciative of the chance to connect with all of you chamber members and to the chamber for allowing us to speak today.
Well, thank you so much, Melissa and Sarah. We really appreciate you coming in and talking about this. And I would imagine that when people are back at their desk and working on some of this stuff, questions will come up. So the slide deck will go out afterwards. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining us on Friday and taking some time out of your day. The webinar has been recorded and will be available on our website. And just be sure to keep up with us and Total Solutions on social media. And we want to thank Sarah and Melissa for joining us today and providing us with some really valuable information. So thank you so much and have a great day, everybody.